If the man who could have been king chose to walk away, what excuse do today's leaders have? Most revolutions end the same way. A hero wins the war, then keeps the power. Sometimes it's a crown, sometimes it's a lifetime presidency, sometimes it's just until things stabilize. But almost always, victory becomes permission, and the general becomes the government. America had a moment where that pattern could have repeated. The war was over, the celebrations were real, but the country was fragile. Money was scarce, trust was thin, and the new system was untested. People wanted safety more than theory, order more than arguments. That's why George Washington's greatest act isn't the one we picture in paintings. It isn't the dramatic crossing or the battlefield triumph. It's the moment he chose restraint when the easiest path, maybe even the expected path, was to hold on. This is the story of how the American experiment survived its first great temptation, the temptation to believe that power is safest in the hands of the man who earned it. The temptation after victory. When the fighting stopped, Washington didn't step into peace, he stepped into uncertainty. The Continental Army had endured freezing camps, hunger, disease, and years of sacrifice. And now, many soldiers felt abandoned. Pay was delayed, promises felt shaky, and the future looked like a question mark. The national government was weak, and the states behaved like rivals more than partners. People argued about debt, taxes, trade, and authority, and many feared the country might splinter into smaller, bickering pieces. The revolution had defeated a king, but it hadn't yet proved that Americans could govern themselves. In moments like that, history tends to offer the same solution: a strong man, not always out of evil, but out of fear. Let someone take control. Let one respected figure impose order. Let the hero finish the job. Washington was that figure. He had the reputation, the trust, and the loyalty of the army. If he had wanted to keep authority, he wouldn't have needed to seize it. In a fragile nation, people often beg to be ruled, as long as the ruler feels familiar and safe. This is the real danger after victory. Not the enemy outside the gates, but the quiet belief that liberty is too messy to survive without a single hand at the wheel. And if that belief takes root early, it becomes the country's default setting. Washington understood what was at stake. The final test of the revolution wasn't whether the army could win. It was whether the commander could stop. The resignation that shocked the world. The moment came not with a roar, but with a decision. Washington went before Congress and resigned his commission. He returned the authority he had carried through the war and placed the future in civilian hands. It's hard to feel how shocking that was in the modern world, because today leaders treat office like identity. But in the history of revolutions, victorious commanders rarely step down. They usually protect the revolution by staying in charge. And then the temporary exception becomes the permanent arrangement. Washington's resignation sent a message that couldn't be misunderstood. The military would not rule the republic. The army was not the nation's owner. Power was not his personal reward for sacrifice. He didn't just say he believed in self-government, he acted like he believed it. And that is the difference between a republic and a slogan. A slogan praises liberty. A republic requires restraint. With that single act, Washington helped set the first great precedent of American life. The leader is a citizen first, and authority is a temporary trust. He made it normal, at least for that moment, for power to have an endpoint. In a way, he did something even rarer than winning a war. He proved that the American experiment could survive its hero, that it was not built around a man, but around a principle. The Presidency and the Genius of Limits. Years later, the country called Washington back into service. This time, the danger wasn't military defeat, but political failure. The Constitution had been adopted, but it was still an unproven machine. Every decision would become an example. Every precedent would teach the next generation what to expect. Washington could have turned the presidency into a lifetime post, and few people would have resisted. The public trusted him, and the young nation feared instability. In that climate, permanence often feels comforting. But Washington chose the opposite lesson. He served, he helped the new system find its footing, and then he left, after 2 terms. He stepped away from the most powerful office in the country while he was still admired, while he still could have stayed, while people still wanted him. That decision matters more than it sounds. A republic is not only laws on paper, it is habits in the people. One of the most important habits is learning that leadership is temporary, that the office is bigger than the person, and that no one is indispensable. When leaders become permanent, politics becomes existential. Every fight feels like a final battle. Every disagreement becomes a threat, and every election becomes a crisis. But when leadership is temporary by expectation, citizens can disagree without panicking and transfer power without violence. Washington's exit helped normalize peaceful transition. It made the presidency feel like an office, not a throne. It trained the nation to survive change, which is the true stress test of free government. Warning against factions and the moral ceiling over power. Near the end of his public life, Washington warned the country about factions, about the way political tribes can harden into identity. He wasn't warning against disagreement. Disagreement is part of liberty. He was warning against loyalty replacing judgment. Factions tempt citizens to stop thinking and start belonging. They tempt leaders to weaponize division. They persuade people that the other side isn't wrong, but illegitimate, and that idea is how republics break. When factions rise, people start begging for shortcuts. Fix this fast. Take control. Force unity. That's when the same ancient temptation returns, wearing a new costume. Liberty feels slow, so power starts to feel efficient. Washington's life stands as an answer to that temptation. He showed that strong leadership doesn't require permanent authority. He showed that restraint is not weakness, it's strength with boundaries. He showed that the real victory is not getting power, but limiting what power can do, including your own. And that brings the story to us. The Washington Standard is not find the perfect leader. The standard is build a culture where leaders can leave, and a system where citizens don't panic when they do. Because liberty doesn't only die when bad men seize power. It also dies when good men refuse to let go of it, and when free people trade responsibility for the comfort of being ruled. George Washington walked away, twice, when history expected him to stay. And in doing that, he didn't just end a war or complete a presidency. He placed a moral ceiling over power itself. Don't just ask if your side is right. Ask if you're still willing to live under limits when you feel certain you are right. That's the hardest part of liberty, and the part Washington understood. The fight for liberty never ends, it only changes hands.